Hello everybody, welcome back to In My Shed. I'm BC. Just a short one today, finishing up a project that's been on for the last month or so. It's been a bit of a maintenance day, charging batteries and getting all the rubbish, all the old paperwork and invoices from 15 years ago and putting it in the rubbish bin. If you leave it too long, it's a big job, and we left it well and truly too long. But if you hide everything up on the mezzanine, that's where it still is when you go looking. Bit of interest. I bought a MOSFET modulating battery charger off eBay for $27 and it's worth every cent I paid for it. Man, it belts some charge into that battery, then levels off, does a good job. So if you want a good battery charger, and it's one you can leave on because when the battery's full it turns itself off and it says full, F-U-L. Chinese stuff. We're quite pleased with that cheap piece of junk. Bit of work today. 4 small cutters to sharpen, and I hate sharpening small cutters, they're so dicky to see, but if we can we'll zoom you in on that. And the highlight of the day, finally I'm going to have a go at finishing up on this cutter. I'll zoom you in very shortly and you'll be able to see the cleaned up face that I machined out, which I was quite surprised with. And I'll just have to grind a gullet in front of the cutting edges and grind a reasonably flat face with a couple of degrees high for the inner and 45 degree chamfer for the outer. Very similar to doing annular cutters, slightly different geometry, but it serves the same function. And then I can pass it on to Graham and give it a go. So I'll zoom you in a little bit closer and we'll have a look at this cutter. Back in a sec. Well, back again, and you focus down on the cutter, and I can't believe how good that telephoto lens is working. I hope I don't interfere with the autofocus, but you can see a little bit of the work I've done last weekend. Dished out the centre of the cutter, probably by about 4mm, I'd say, maybe 5, probably 4, be accurate. Once again, that Sutton carbide drill just did a bonza job of drilling into there. So now it'll be onto the bench grinder with the gulleting wheel and take a little bit out of here. I've just noticed that that back edge is kicked up a little bit from when it was previously ground, so I'll try and gullet that out if I can, because that'll make it difficult to get in behind and clean up, and most of the teeth are like that. Only a very little bit there, but this and then that one there are very, very pronounced. So I'll have to gullet out to them. Trying to maintain the same rake angle as I've put inside the flute already. So it'll be a reasonable job, but it'll only take about 2 minutes. That wheel on the grinder is absolutely fabulous at chewing into high-speed steel. And then I'll be grinding the inner facet with a dish angle of about 1 or 2 degrees so it doesn't rub. Take that down a couple of millimetres until we get a decent bit of clearance there, and then the outside chamfer 45 degrees. I hope you don't have to take too much off that, otherwise the cutter will be hard to balance. But a lot of people have a go at me about hand grinding the gullets, but it's not as critical as you think, because when you come around and top grind all of these facets here, you equal the height of all the teeth, and that's the important thing. All of the teeth must be of the same height all around the cutter. That way it's an even chip load. You can have a little bit of a different rake angle, you can have slightly different spacing, makes no bloody difference, as long as the height on each tooth is exactly the same. And that's my complaint of almost every cutter that you buy now. They're not equally ground, and also you'll have alternate teeth, inside cutting and outside cutting, and sometimes it'll be 3 teeth before you come back to cutting again, and that poor third tooth is doing 3 times the chip load, and it's no way to grind a cutter. So I'll stop gabbing on now, throw that back up into the workhead, and we'll see what we can do about grinding it after I do a bit of gulleting. Okay, bye now. I'll see if I can get a short video of me grinding one of the gullets. It's a little bit hard to not get my big fat head in between you and what I'm doing, but I'm aligning the flute angle with the face of the wheel, so I'm trying to keep the rake angle constant, So I plunge into the flute area to form the rake and rotate slightly counterclockwise as I come back out to form that relapse there. A little bit of a rebate, sorry. Some clearance here. Let's hope it works. We'll throw it up on the Clarkson now and see if we can get a bit of an edge. Well, here we have a bit of a bird's eye view. What's happening on the tool and cutter grinder. And I'll try and set up on the other side as well so you can see what's happening to the back of the tooth. I've got that tooth roughly on the centre line with the cutter, indexing finger in on the next loop. And this is about as close as you can get. Very interesting to note the wear land on the wheel. You can see that it's now cutting on about a 2.5mm white base. And I'll show you what I've been doing to dress that lately. Now I've already done about a dozen passes and I've got all of the teeth almost to the point where the cutting edge has got a thin line. There's only one little gap on one tooth that still needs a bit more. So I'll wind in another thou and go for a run. And yes, I will agree, this is how it was done when the dinosaurs were about, but all I've got is dinosaur equipment. Okay, another pass. And all of those teeth have come up even, but I'll try and get the camera around the other side and do a half-hour pass so you can see what's happening. Take a sec. So we're on the other side of the tool and cutter grinder now, in direct line with the lighting, but it still comes up reasonable. I don't know if you can see, but this is the face that they're grinding. They're all coming up very, very bright, and even with this much material removed, the cutter is still as hard as bloody glass. So just crank in about another thou and we'll go around for another pass. Here we go. Okay. Okay, that's most of the noise gone. And you'll see that that's the clearance face that we're grinding on the back of the cutter. Cutting lip is here. This is the outer edge that we'll do next. And this is the gulleted area that the grinding wheel is escaping into. And I think we're just about at the end of the escape. A couple more passes and I'll be grinding into this end face of the cutter and I'll have to relieve it and turn it out again. I started off trying to give it 10th hour primary clearance, although with this I only grind one facet, so there's 10 degrees total clearance, and it was just too much. I was going to be bottoming out on the back before I got anywhere near it. So there's only 5 degrees behind the cutter there. But as most of the cutting is done by these teeth, I don't think that that's overly critical. I'm really, really happy with the finish I'm getting just with the 60 grit wheel. So I'll now try and experiment a little bit with my setup and get it around to 45 degrees to take these out as chamfers. I think 45 would be fairly close. But you can see the way it was ground earlier, there's only 1.5 mil or so to come off that tooth to come down to height. and yet there's about 3mm on that one, 3mm, 4mm on that. So I don't know what the hell we're going to find when we start to do the outer edge of the teeth. We may have to grind quite a bit of material off, but there's honestly no clearance behind the cutting edge. I don't think this cutter was operating at all after they ground it. So I'll bring you back in a little while. So here we are again, and from the other side of the cutter. I've had to orientate the cutter so I'm grinding off the edge, which I don't really like, but I can't reverse the spindle, so I'm stuck with it. This Parkson has such a restricted envelope when you come to cutters that I'm not accustomed to. It just makes it difficult, but we'll do a few passes from this side and then I'll take you around to the other face of the grinder. So off we go, another 1,000. And another 1,000. Just about cutting on all faces now. Another pass. Okay, it's time for me to put the light around and try and inspect the cutter a little bit further. I don't know whether I'm doing good or damage, but as soon as I find out, I'll bring you back in and we'll have a look. Okay, here we are, in from the other side. A very unconventional way to grind cutters, I must say. And the wheel is coming up a little bit glazed, so I'll show you how I do a quick dress in between the main operations. I put a square up on the cutter to try and see if I am getting positive relief, because it's so hard to discern at 5 degrees, and comparing it to the helix angle of the flute is no bloody good. So the only thing I can do is finish grinding sufficient behind the edge for it to work if I'm doing the right thing, and then put it up on the face plate or an angle plate and see if it sits reasonably flush with a bit of clearance behind it. But I'll start the machine up, just true this bit of yuck out of the wheel and put a little inside chamfering, which seems to be the secret, and take another couple of light cuts off the cutter, and then we'll call it quits. Okay, please like and subscribe. Now always make sure that you're lagging the wheel rather than leading the wheel. You see most of the black yuck's gone out of the wheel. Dress wheel, didn't take much. Those dressing sticks, by the way, are only about $15 to buy, so they won't break your bank. Yeah, we took a fuse now off the wheel. Yep, that's it. Back again. And you can really tell a freshly dressed wheel. It cuts so cool and it's so aggressive. We'll just take it down a bit. One more round and we should be right. Okay, I'll have the cutter out of the holder now and we'll see what it's like. Back in a sec. Where it is looking all bright and shiny, the only way I will tell if it does have any clearance is put a little lever indicator on it, and I don't have time for that now. I've got something very important to do called shopping. I like to eat. But I think you can see on the light there, the finish on the cutting edge is just fabulous. For just a 60 grit aluminium oxide wheel, I'm really pleased with what it looks like. And I'm sure that if I have bucketed up the geometry, there's enough material there for me to grind it out and get a bit more. But as I said, compared to the flute angle, it's very, very difficult to pick where it is. The only thing you can do is put an indicator behind it and turn the cutter and see what happens. So next weekend, that's what I'll do. If it comes out good, I'll report back to you. If it doesn't come out good, I won't bloody well tell you. You just have to keep guessing. Have a good weekend. Bye from BC.